Stop grinding and start rising. The radical power of the pause. Good morning, beautiful souls. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I am your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that completely shattered everything I thought I knew about resilience, about rising, about what it actually takes to build an empire that lasts. I recently had the profound honor of sitting down with Lakesa Williams, an extraordinary woman whose life is a living masterpiece of regeneration, radical courage, and the kind of strength that doesn't announce itself but quietly transforms everything it touches. Lakesa is not just surviving, she is thriving magnificently, running a medical facility while operating her business from home. And her journey, her wisdom, her very existence is making this world a softer, safer, more hopeful place for Black women everywhere. She is proof that you can lose everything and still rise to own it all. Now, here's what Lakesa taught me that I desperately need you to hear. We have been sold the most dangerous lie of our generation. The culture, the hustle economy, the grind mindset, they all tell us that resilience means pushing harder, grinding longer, never stopping, never slowing down, never taking a breath. That if we just sacrifice a little more, work a little harder, sleep a little less, we will finally break through to the other side, that our worth is measured by our productivity, that rest is for the weak, that pausing means giving up. But what if I told you that this entire narrative is not just wrong, but actively destroying us? What if the real secret to exponential comebacks, the kind that leave you owning two houses outright, flipping properties with confidence, running multiple businesses simultaneously, and leading powerfully in healthcare, isn't about grinding harder at all? What if the most revolutionary thing you could do right now in this very moment is to stop? What if you're rock bottom, that devastating moment when everything you built crumbles, when the marriage ends, when the business fails, when the betrayal cuts so deep you can barely breathe? What if that moment isn't your ending, but your divine setup for the greatest empire you will ever build? Let me say that again because I need this to land in your spirit. True entrepreneurial resilience for Black women is not about hustling harder through adversity. It is about strategically pausing to rebuild inner strength during rock bottom moments, especially after devastating losses, which consistently leads to exponential comebacks stronger than anything that came before. This completely challenges everything we have been taught about nonstop grinding. It reveals that vulnerability and strategic recovery are not weaknesses to hide, but power moves for sustainable long term success. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, LeAnne, pause. Are you serious right now? I don't have the luxury to pause. I have bills stacking up, children depending on me, a business barely holding on, responsibilities that won't wait. I hear you, sis. I see you. But let me take you on a journey through history, through the lives of women who look just like us, who faced odds that should have destroyed them, and who discovered that the pause, the intentional rebuilding, was the very catalyst that unlocked empires we still benefit from today. Let's start with a name that needs no introduction, but a story that deserves to be told differently. Oprah Winfrey. Born in the suffocating poverty of rural Mississippi to a teenage single mother, Oprah's childhood was marked by unspeakable trauma. She endured childhood sexual molestation by family members who should have protected her. She ran away at 14, desperate to escape. She became pregnant at 14, carrying a baby she would tragically lose. Early in her career, she was fired from television jobs, told she wasn't fit for TV, faced public scandals that could have buried her forever. Everything in Oprah's story screamed failure, trauma, impossibility. But here's what Oprah did that changed not just her life, but the entire landscape of media and entrepreneurship for Black women. She paused. In the midst of all that pain, all that rejection, all that trauma, she turned inward. She made the radical decision to leverage her storytelling and her vulnerability in media, not as something to hide or be ashamed of, but as a weapon of deep human connection. She built the OWN network from that foundation of authenticity. She diversified into production and philanthropy, creating multiple streams of impact and income. She became a billionaire, yes, but more importantly, she became a beacon of hope for millions. Oprah pioneered authentic media specifically for Black women and inspired global entrepreneurship across every industry imaginable. Her lesson is crystal clear. Turning trauma into empire building requires the profound courage to stop running from your pain and start rebuilding from the inside out, using every wound as a foundation stone for something greater. Now, let's travel back even further in time to a woman whose name should be spoken with the same reverence as any titan of industry, Madam C.J. Walker, born Sarah Breedlove in 1867, orphaned tragically young, married at just 14 years old, widowed in 1904 with a young daughter to raise alone. She suffered from a severe and painful scalp ailment that caused devastating hair loss. She lived in grinding poverty. She faced the relentless, soul crushing weight of racial discrimination in an America that did not even pretend to value Black women's lives, dreams, or dignity. Everything, and I mean everything, was stacked against her. The world told her she had no right to dream, no path to prosperity, no chance at anything beyond survival. But in the 1890s, when her hair loss became unbearable and doctors offered no solutions, she did not just accept her fate. She paused, she experimented relentlessly, she developed hair products through painstaking trial and error in her own home. She created a direct sales model that would revolutionize how products reach Black communities. She trained sales agents nationwide, building a network of economic empowerment for Black women. By the time Madam Walker was done rewriting the rules, she had built factories, trained 40,000 agents, and became the first self made female millionaire in America. Read that again. The first self made female millionaire in America. She revolutionized the entire Black beauty industry and became the enduring model for women led scalable businesses that still inspire entrepreneurs today. Her lesson cuts straight to the bone. Resilience is regenerative, not relentless. She transformed unspeakable pain into a multifaceted empire by absolutely refusing to let her losses, her poverty, her circumstances define the limits of what was possible for her life. And then there is Ursula Burns, a name that should be taught in every business school, every leadership program, every conversation about breaking barriers. Raised by a single Panamanian mother in the New York City housing projects, Ursula faced every challenge you can imagine: single motherhood pressures, the suffocating glass ceiling in corporate America, and the devastating economic collapse of the 2008 recession that destroyed countless careers. She could have given up at any point. No one would have blamed her. But she did not. She built mentorship networks intentionally. She focused relentlessly on STEM education and excellence. She led strategic acquisitions that transformed companies. She championed diversity initiatives that opened doors for thousands who came after her. And in 2009, Ursula Burns became the first Black woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company, Xerox. She grew Xerox revenue significantly, chaired Vion, served as an Obama administration manufacturing advisor, and diversified board leadership across multiple industries. Ursula shattered CEO barriers for Black women and permanently elevated corporate diversity standards in America. Her lesson is undeniable. Every single downfall, whether financial devastation, emotional trauma, or relational betrayal, equips you with tools to own assets outright, flip opportunities others cannot see, and lead in industries that once excluded you, proving that strategic recovery creates unbreakable momentum. Now, here's where everything comes together. Lakesa Williams embodies every single one of these lessons in her own extraordinary life. Her journey mirrors Oprah's early trauma and her ability to pivot into new business models with courage. It parallels Madam Walker's experience of young marriage, early motherhood, devastating business losses, and community focused rebuilding. It echoes Ursula's navigation of single motherhood, asset recovery against all odds, and powerful leadership in facilities and business, even amid betrayals that would have crushed most people. Lakesa's life is the living, breathing blueprint for what I call regenerative resilience. And I want to break down exactly what that means and how you can apply it starting today. So, what does regenerative resilience actually look like in practice? Let me give you three key insights that Lakesa shared with me. Insights that have the power to completely transform your life, your business, and your legacy starting right now. First, embrace strategic pauses amid absolute chaos. After devastating losses like divorce or business shutdowns or betrayals that shake your foundation, intentionally rebuilding your personal strength unlocks the clarity you need to not just reclaim what was lost, but to multiply it exponentially. Think about this carefully. When everything falls apart, when you lose the storefront you poured your heart into, when the marriage you believed in ends, when the betrayal cuts so deep you question everything you thought you knew about people, the world screams at you to get back up immediately, to keep moving, to prove you are still strong, to show everyone you are fine. But what if the real power move, the move that separates those who rebuild from those who build empires, is to sit still, to grieve fully and without shame, to rebuild your inner foundation with intention before you even think about rebuilding your external empire? That is exactly what Lakasa did. That is exactly what Oprah did. That is exactly what Madam Walker did. And that intentional pause, that strategic rebuilding, is what led directly to owning multiple properties after devastating setbacks, to launching networks that changed industries, to training thousands and creating generational wealth. Second, understand deeply that resilience is regenerative, not relentless. Black women entrepreneurs rise most powerfully by transforming pain, whether from betrayal, child loss, financial devastation, or emotional trauma, into multifaceted empires. This looks like shifting from floristry to running a medical facility without abandoning your core creative passions. You do not have to choose between your pain and your purpose. You do not have to erase your past to build your future. You do not have to pretend the hard things did not happen. You get to carry it all, transform it all, and let every single experience fuel you toward something greater. La Casa did not stop being a florist when she opened a medical facility. She integrated every part of her journey. She regenerated. She became more, not less. She became whole, not fragmented. Third, recognize that every single downfall is actually a setup. Every financial collapse, every emotional devastation, every relational betrayal, every single one equips you with wisdom, discernment, resilience, and skills to own assets outright, flip opportunities others walk past, and lead powerfully in industries like health services, proving definitively that recovery leads to unbreakable momentum. Your divorce is teaching you boundaries you never knew you needed. Your business shutdown is teaching you resilience that will make your next venture unstoppable. Your betrayal is teaching you discernment that will protect everything you build going forward. And when you rise, and I promise you that you will rise owning it all, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. You will own your story, your strength, your softness, and your undeniable power. Now, let me ask you the question that sits at the heart of everything we do here. How are you learning to be soft in a world that taught you survival? Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud: softness is not weakness, softness is not giving up, softness is not laziness or lack of ambition. Softness is the most radical act of self love available to us. Softness says, I will not grind myself into dust to prove my worth to a world that will never be satisfied. Softness is the strategic pause we just talked about. Softness is the regenerative resilience that builds empires. Softness is the divine setup that changes everything. Lakesa taught me something that I will carry for the rest of my life. Your soft girl era does not mean you stop building empires. It does not mean you become less ambitious or less driven or less powerful. It means you stop building those empires on the crumbling foundation of your own exhaustion, your own depletion, your own slow destruction. It means you release the cape that is suffocating you. You redefine strength on your own terms. You embrace healing in real time without apology. You protect your peace as a non negotiable daily practice. And you turn your survival story into something sacred, something that supports and uplifts others who are walking similar paths. So here's what I need you to do: not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down. Right now. What if your next rock bottom, whether it is a divorce, a business closure, a devastating personal loss, or a betrayal that breaks your heart, what if that moment is not your ending, but your divine setup for the greatest empire you will ever build? This week, I want you to identify one setback from your past, just one. Write it down, look at it honestly, then journal its hidden strength. What did that experience actually teach you? What did it unlock inside you that was dormant before? What doors did it close that needed to be closed? What doors did it open that you never would have walked through otherwise? And then take one bold, concrete step to reclaim the power from that experience. And because just like LaCasa, just like Oprah, just like Madam Walker, just like Ursula Burns, you too can rise owning absolutely everything. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not damaged goods. You are strategically pausing. You are regenerating at the deepest level. You are being set up by the divine for something so much greater than you can possibly imagine right now. And when you rise, and I promise you with everything in me that you will rise, the world will finally understand that softness, that vulnerability, that strategic recovery is the ultimate power move available to any of us. The question is not whether you will rise. The question is, will you give yourself permission to pause long enough to rise properly? Will you trust the process of regeneration? Will you believe that your rock bottom is actually your launching pad? I believe you will. I believe you can. I believe you are already beginning. Now go prove it to yourself. Thank you